Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa in spa life, the SPA, is seek power always, that power and wisdom within you so that you can do your deeper work. I am so thrilled to introduce to you my special guest for today, Wendy Petties. She is the founder of Good Girls Do and the perfect blend of psychologist, MBA, human lie detector, and Sexpert. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Diane. I am so happy to be here.
It's so great. Well, I have to just jump right in here right away. How did Good Girls Do come about?
So Good Girls Do, the framework around Good Girls Do is that we were raised to do, be good girls and do the right things. And sometimes it all doesn't work out. And so instead of bashing ourselves, we just say that good girls come in every shape and size. We do all kinds of things and we just get it done. So we good girls, team good girl, we can do it.
I love that. I love that, just positive support and just, getting out there to do the things that we're here to do. So tell me, as a, former, retired, police officer, when I hear human lie detector, tell me about that.
So in my training, when I was getting my MBA, I did a dual degree in psychology and business. And a lot of the courses that I took were about people dynamics and human dynamics and body language and all of that. So I have this very unique skill that I can call crap on people, even when they're lying to themselves. And I can just see it. I just see it. It comes in handy in one day and one way and gets in the way in another. Handy because I see people coming and I help them to discover their own truth, but it also can get in the way because I'm no longer allowed to be on a jury.
Well, we are kindred spirits in that because I'm not either. As a police officer, obviously we've got certain, things that we look at that the other parts of the world do not. Yeah. So I look at it, that just frees us up for more time.
Yes.
So that's good. So tell me about the Sexpert part. How does that come into your life and role?
So one of my first jobs was as a condom negotiator.
Okay, so for our listeners who maybe crashed their car, maybe you need to explain that a little bit further.
I was hired years and years and years ago, like in the 80s, when HIV and AIDS just started out. I was hired to go into communities of color and speak to women of color in particular, who were dying at an alarming rate from HIV and AIDS when they thought it was just a gay white male disease.
Right.
And I was hired to go and talk to them about how to get their men to use condoms. And so wow. I was trained. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience to be trained. It was really scary to go out. I was young and I was talking to women that were older than I was, but that really started my journey into sex exploration and sex education. And I continued with my learning because when I went out there to talk to them about it, they wanted to talk about other things. They wanted to talk about that they weren't having pleasurable sex. And I thought that was absolutely horrible. And right. It started my journey to figure out the psychology about why people would sleep with people if they're not getting pleasure, why and how women's pleasure came about. And so I started learning and learning and learning. And so here we are with that blend as well.
Wow. So was that kind of the forefront that led into you creating, Vibrant Life?
Yes. I mean, yes and no. I mean, the combining all of my skills, all of me, I have an MBA, I have a psychology degree, I know all kinds of things about sex and relationships, combining all of that brought me to this moment where I'm doing Vibrant Life. Because I believe that if we use all of our parts and all of our genius and all of our juiciness and all of our failures, that we can create anything that we want.
Right. Well, and I love how you say that you like to have people create a life that they don't need a vacation from. I love that so much. That's such a core principle here at Spa Life about, having all those aspects and have them really add up to the life that you want to live. Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about what Vibrant Life is and how you're supporting women.
Yes. So Vibrant Life is my latest endeavor. It is an experience product. So you know how you go through these courses and it's kind of like you do something and then I teach you something, you learn something, you fill out something kind of thing. But this is a whole experience. It's a new way of producing information products. It's a new way of doing workshops, new way of doing online stuff. And so it's a 6-week experience. It's starting in late February. And I'm taking women through a process of figuring out what it is that they really desire and what it is that they want to do. Now, we go through some deep stuff too, so you got to be ready to kind of dig in and jump through. We touch on all kinds of fun and juicy things, but it really is an experience that I move the group through in order to figure out what would be their ideal lifestyle and life in 5 core areas. We talk about love and money and health and fun, which people forget about, to add that in,
Right.
and work and those things as defined by you. I think that we don't often take the time to really think about what it is that we want. I get a lot of my clients, a lot of women, primarily women over 40, who look at their lives and they're like, is this really my life? You know, and not in a, oh my God, is this really my life? But in this, how did I get here? You know, we go through the motions daily, day in, day out, and we put our little pedicured toes on the ground, and then we do the same thing over and over again without thinking. And so a lot of it is questioning things. A lot of it is, you know, the camaraderie of the group. And since I am the human lie detector, a lot of it is, you know, aligning and helping people to align to be their best selves. You know?
I love this so much. I think it's so important to have the experiential aspect of it, because I think as women, especially, you know, I also, you know, work with women over 40, and I think that we're at a different place in our life, and we're really looking at things of like, you know, how do we want to be more intentional, and what does that look like, and, you know, what am I doing in my life, and what's the bigger purpose? I mean, there's so many other questions to be added in all of this, which leads me into, you know, we talk about how do you design your life versus living by default. And I know that you do a conscious effort of this. Talk a little bit about the pleasure power days.
Yes. So bringing in my human sexuality and all of those things that are about me and my body, pleasure is not just sexual, but that is a big part of women and how we can express ourselves. But pleasure power days are days where I am just really in tune and conscious about things that give me pleasure. Now, it may not be a spa day and it may not be a vacation, but it could be when I take a walk, I'm looking for things that make me smile. I am walking with a smile on my face. Oh, I just got goosebumps. You know, like those kind of things. And so it's a conscious way to connect to pleasure. It's a conscious way to think about your 5 senses. You know, okay, today, this pleasure power day, I'm going to concentrate on sight. And so I'm looking for pleasure, looking for joy. And so that's really how I've manifested it into my life.
Well, this is such a reflection of who you are. I mean, you walk around with such a joyful presence. I mean, I spotted you across the room when I saw you at the transformational retreat. And it was just one of those things where you're just such a bright lighthouse. And so people are attracted to you to want to spend that time with you. And this is, you know, this is you walking your talk, right? This is you doing the practices, the daily things that, you know, have you step into that. I know for me, you know, being optimistic, right? Being positive. I mean, it's a choice to be able to actually do that each day. I actually have a practice each evening where I write down, you know, satisfaction. So like, what was the satisfaction for the day? Because one of the things that one of my mentors was sharing with me was it's different in terms of like what was good about the day or what are you grateful for? What actually created satisfaction? And that opened up a whole different thing for me because, you know, true satisfaction, you know, like you said, it's not just going to a spa or, you know, getting a massage, but it's like, what are the small things in life? That's why I love how you talk about all the senses, you know, because there's sensuality and there's sexuality and there's all the different nuances, but just appreciating beauty and what scents do you like to smell in your home? And just what are all of those things that live to the juicy part of life that actually make you feel satisfied? And I think that's such a great word, and the words mean such deep things in what we're doing. So that's why I love the pleasure aspect, because just even saying the word pleasure is just like, ooh, what's
I
yummy
know.
about
Don't you
what,
just
right?
love
So
it.
I love
Yes,
that you use that
I
word,
do. I
because it's
do.
such a fun thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that so much. And I think that there's an inner knowingness that also women are a little bit untapped with. And I think that one of the things I love about what you're doing to be experiential is, do you find that like a lot of the women that you're serving now, that they feel like, yes, there's always something more to know, but they're not necessarily wanting to know more, right? It's more about like accessing their knowing,
Yes.
so that they can really live from a deeper space, So,
Sorry, my kitten is saying
oh,
hello.
come on into the show,
Hi.
pleasure, little
Hi.
purring.
Yes.
It's all
Yes.
good. So for those of you who may be just listening and not actually seeing on here, we had, Wendy's little kitty cat come by just during the pleasure conversation, just to make sure.
Yes. He's well
Right.
in tune.
So good, right? So what are you noticing with some of the women that you're working with, and maybe even some of your own experiences about really just accessing that inner knowing?
Wow. I think you hit it right on the head. I find that a lot of the women, and me too, but I'll talk about my clients first, who feel like friends, but they are clients. They are really, like you said, women over 40 are at this really interesting place where they are connecting and thinking about things they never thought about before. Never thought about before. They're learning to trust their intuition, trust themselves, and to ask those questions about, is this all there is? And so they are getting quiet, but it is a learned skill. And so I find that I have to keep bringing them back to, what do you know? What do you know? Like if you did know, what would you say? If you did know, what would you do? Because we're so conditioned to just go through the motions. And so I think you are right, dead on. It is about intuition, is about your gut check, is about closing your eyes, just closing your eyes and feeling it, listening to your body, feeling the goosebumps come when they need to. Like I feel this all over my body, and it's a learned skill, a learned practice. And so we do a lot of that, just kind of taking a moment for ourselves to just figure out what it is that we truly desire.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is so important. I think, in the first part of our life, whether or not, we're parents, or we're birthing a business, or there's things that we're building, in life, just building and being so externally focused to, other people. And because a lot of times the reason why we start business is to serve people and to help people and have that happening. Sometimes I think part of the equation is that we need to fill ourselves up first in order to come from that place to be able to serve on a deeper, because I always talk about like we're the asset of our business, and if we're not taking care of ourselves, and I know you're a big proponent of health, and like because if this body vehicle that we have to move us through the world, it breaks down, we can't do our bigger work in the world. And so really looking at self-care as not a luxury but a necessity.
Absolutely.
And having to have this part. And so when we're asking these deeper questions, to give ourselves permission to explore, what do we really want to have our life look like, and giving ourselves permission to dream and expand and have those bigger type things to look at. So what are some of the things for that you do to help women to give themselves permission to live a bigger life?
Well, one thing that we do is called, can I curse on here? Well, it's ass. It's just ass. It's not a real curse. It's a real word.
It's a pretend curse.
It's a pretend curse. We do something called show your badass, and that's a bragging moment, giving permission to brag about something.
Yes.
And when we ask about what are you proud about, it's not that my son got an A on his test or that my husband got a promotion or whatever. Like, what are you proud about? Like, show your badass, like tell us, and we give permission to do that. Permission, which is often what we don't get, and we support each other, and we have friends, but no one really stops and takes it in. we don't feel comfortable saying, I did that. Woo! And jumping up and down. And so just the permission.
Right.
Permission.
I love that, because when you were saying that, I actually kind of had this flash of the opposite of that. I don't know if you're familiar with Mel Robbins' book, The 5-Second Rule.
I love her.
Is she amazing?
Yes.
And one of the things why that got triggered for me right now is in the 5-second rule, when we decide to do something, we either step into it within that 5 seconds, or it becomes a hesitation, becomes a procrastination, then it becomes self-doubt, and we go down this spiral of going down. Mm-hmm. And so what you're saying in terms of bragging and actually just saying, hey, this is an amazing thing that I'm doing, not only does that open up the channels of feeling it within your body, but you also are giving other women permission to feel that. And then it's the spiral up. Absolutely. So many times we get into the spiral down. Oh, yeah, right? And we know what that feels like, right?
The Me Too club of, oh yeah, well, I'm sicker than you are. Oh my God, this happened to me too. And we just go down, 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 down. Like, what if we could try and top the great stuff? What if we could say, oh my God, that's amazing. Well, me too. Let me tell you what I did. That's what I'm trying to create. That is exactly what I'm trying to create.
I love that, Wendy, that you're holding the platform for that you're really having women step into that, because we really need that, because how we feel in life every day in ourselves becomes a reflection of the work that we're doing, of the life that we're living. I mean, it's all related in a bigger way to be able to do that. So I know you've got some, other things as far as, tell us a little bit about like the art of questioning.
So the art of questioning it's a deliberate practice to make sure that you question everything that doesn't feel right or everything that feels great. It is a practice of saying, how do I really feel about this? What do I really think about this? If this was happening, I know my first response, but if this was happening to my friend, what would I say to her? What would I say to my sister if that was happening to her? Because oftentimes it's really easy to make quick snap judgments about ourselves and then be reflective about other people. So when your best friend comes to you and she says, oh my God, this is happening and blah, 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 we have an answer. We have an answer. But with ourselves, we internalize it as though we did something wrong. We don't think that of our friends. And so the art of questioning is just a practice to have you really, really get connected to and used to asking questions of yourself.
Right. Well, what's so important about asking those questions is it gets you past, getting into the, I don't say like the blaming part of it or the judging part of it that can come of that internal dialogue that can happen. So by asking those questions, it broadens beyond like that snap decisions that we have with ourselves. I mean, of course, there's times where we can be the biggest critic on ourselves, and to get into that questioning mode and to start asking some of those things. I mean, it's interesting when you had mentioned the, Me Too in a positive way, to say like, I've done this, I've had this experience. And again, it's that spin because, right now, in the political climate, hearing the word Me Too, can have this connotation of something negative that's happened. And one of the things that just kind of was brought up for me was, that there's the conversation beyond the conversation, right? The Me Too is staying in the victimization part of it. Yep. And one of the most powerful things that someone had shared with me is that, we can all have a victim experience, but we can choose to not be a victim.
Absolutely.
And so moving beyond that Me Too conversation of, okay, here's a conversation, and then what? What's the next question? And that deep level of that, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a really important tool to really have women start exploring of, what do these things mean for me? Where am I getting stuck in the victimization aspects of my life? And how am I transcending that? And how can I feel better about life? And how can I feel into the next thing and using that feeling experiences?
And you said feeling a lot, and a lot of what I do and how I become so connected, and so like when I met you also, I could feel you. I could feel you. I wanted to put my arms around you and hug you because I am connected in feelings and real attuned to how I feel and how I don't, and so some people, I don't want to hug them, and I don't. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so
and making that okay.
yes, it is. It is okay. It's just a moment of check in. How am I feeling? What am I getting from this person in this moment? In
Right.
this moment, and I think feelings are really important. And one of the exercises that I do is about, I have a whole feelings chart. When
Right.
people ask you, how are you doing? People say, fine, or they say, not so good today, or something like that. And
Right.
most of the time they're lying because they haven't even taken a second to connect and see how they're really feeling. And so
Right.
I have a feelings chart where you can pick and explore all types of feelings so that you can really get in tune to feeling and understanding what those feelings are and connecting them to, and then what, like you said.
Right. You know what? That just reminds me when I had retired from the police department. I mean, so much of the training, it's not, specific training, but learned training on the job is that you learn to shut off your feelings because you're moving from one tragedy to the next, 911 after 911. And so, you don't have time to feel in a lot of those situations. A lot of it's very reactionary and you only have seconds and to make decisions and things like that. But I remember as I was, integrating and working on, I'm trained to remove trauma from the body. And so I did a lot of type things to, remove trauma from myself and then to help other people do it. But one of the things I really utilized as part of that practice was to actually have I used to carry sheets of positive feeling words, because if I could actually see them and then say them, then I could start incorporating, well, what does that actually feel like? And to start reutilizing those again. Like I'd hear people say something like, I feel bliss. And I'd be like, well, what the hell's bliss feel like? What
Wow.
is that, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so now I can have association by having, things in our environment. And you talk about the automatic responses that people have. They don't even think about how do I feel that, or what do I mean by that, or the deeper conversations around that. Another one of those things people say, I'm so busy, right? That's another badge, that's a good thing to have.
Yes.
And so what are some of the things that we're looking at beyond that? And I know that, we were having kind of a pre-conversation around that whole busy conversation and how, you can have more impact and not rely on some of those default words.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you do about, again, being really conscious about your life? And tell us a little bit about Sunday Summit.
So Sunday Summit helps me to diffuse the busy. It helps me to really put in perspective what I've committed to for the week, and to note that I might be a little too full that week, So I have a one sheet document that kind of reflects on last week and moves through this week. It only asks, what are 3 things that you want to get done this week? Which of those 3 things would make you the most proud? Is there any help that you need? Is there anything that'll get in your way? That's it. That's it. And it looks back at, did you get the 3 things from last week done?
Right.
And not in a, check it off, yes and yay, and oh, you're a bad person. No, but just a no, I got number 1 and number 2 done, and here's why. It's that kind of gentle process, because I do believe in being gentle with ourselves.
Right. Yeah.
There's enough things that can beat us up. But I do
think
that
that's
every
important.
Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to have those kind of that awareness, right, about how you're living your life. And, I love using, a tool similar to that for my clients as well, because there's something about what you've chosen to do and whether or not you actually did it or not. And again, not from that judgment standpoint, but, if you're having something that you're maybe taking off your calendar 3 different times, it may be time to explore, why are you not doing that? Does that mean that you shouldn't be doing it at all? Should that be delegated, or should it just be taken off completely?
Yep.
Are you maybe doing it for somebody else? I mean, these are those deeper questions, right, to be asking ourselves on the things. I find myself doing that all the time. What are the things that I'm either avoiding to do? Is it because I don't want to do it, or I'm, afraid to do something, or I don't have all the tools, or, what does that look like? And I think that introspection that happens is really helpful to be able to look at it.
Just had a moment with a personal situation where there's an event that that a friend of mine and I go to every year. And every year we go to this thing. It's a day-long event. We usually plan, we have lunch and everything. And this year I said, hey, do you want to go? And she said yes immediately. We have spoken 3 or 4 times and neither one of us bought our tickets yet. Now we're meeting for lunch tomorrow. And so we just brought it up. I just said, hey, I've noticed that I haven't bought my ticket and you haven't bought your ticket. We'll talk about it tomorrow at lunch, and this is a friend because she said, yeah, I was wondering that as well. Do we not want to go? Or, was it the holidays? Is it too expensive? Is it not our priority? And so just asking those questions of
Right.
yourself and not worrying about, oh my God, well, if I don't want to go, she may think that I don't like her and I don't want to say, because we can spiral,
Of course.
we, the global we,
Right.
human beings can spiral into that. And so just trusting yourself and trusting whatever thoughts come up and expressing them.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so important to not be in default mode, to really reevaluate everything. And especially, now at the beginning of a new year, really looking at, how are we consciously choosing the things that we're going to do? And is it really in alignment with where we're going versus, how we've been, and just where we stepping forward into is, an important aspect. So one of the things I love is in terms of creating conscious spaces as well. So one of the things I always like to ask my guests is, because you have a different feeling in your bedroom versus your kitchen or your office, and that all different has a different feeling in space.
Yeah.
So I also like to ask, what is your favorite room and why?
Great question.
Mm-hmm.
When I live in my grandparents' house, I bought my grandparents' house about 10 years ago and
Oh,
just paid
fun.
off the mortgage last year. Yay.
Good for you.
And when I was designing this house, I got a lot of flack because I made a loft out of the bedrooms upstairs. It's one big space and it is my favorite space. I actually had a colorist come to ask me those questions about how did I want people to feel? How did I want to feel? What did I want to experience in the room? It was amazing, amazing process. And I would say my bedroom, it's all blues and teals, and the part that is where my bed is a darker blue, so it's just cozy. I don't have any TV in there. It's just a space that's for me, that's private, and my kitten and my puppy, they love it too. But it's really my space to just be. Everything's within arm's reach, my books, my music, and it's so comfortable. So thank you for asking. What a wonderful question.
Yes, yes. Oh, I think it's so important for people to really hear about how people create their space, right? And so you can tell about a person's space about, how they're being and how they're supporting themselves, and they're giving themselves permission to have a beautiful space and how they're feeling. And I had a colorist come to my house as well, because I think it's important to have another person ask us some of these questions.
Absolutely.
Because we may just, again, go to default of how we're going to experience something, and to think outside the box and see what that looks like. And I think when we do that in our personal space, it becomes reflective of how we're doing work and how we're supporting other people, because we are, again, thinking outside of the box in a lot of different areas in order to have that happen. So I know you have a free gift for our guest here, and the time almost goes by so fast for me.
It does.
And how, what is that?
So I have a checklist that I am providing for anyone who would like to get it, that helps you to figure out what you would want in your non-vacation life. And so you mentioned it earlier in the show. That came about because I was sick of going on vacation and meeting people in the pool or on the beach or at the bar or at the restaurant, and them saying, oh my God, there's only one more day left of vacation. And I always kept thinking that I love my life. I love vacation too. I'm not feeling sad to go back to my life. And so I created this checklist for you to just think about what it would be to have this non-vacation life, And so I will give you a link and we can post it down on the recording so that we can share it with everyone. I don't have the link right this second, but I want to make sure that I get it to you, and we'll post it down at the bottom.
Right. We'll have it by the time the show posts, and we'll put it in the show notes so everyone will have access to it and be able to connect with that. I think that is so important to really, again, we talk about being conscious about, how we're creating things and what things look like, and that vacation life. And, it reminded me, I had a client who had bought a boat for when he retires type thing. And we had been on it like twice at the time that we started working together. And so what we created was that Fridays was going to be his retirement day. And so every Friday he wakes up with the mindset that I'm retired, that he doesn't have clients, he doesn't take calls, and he goes out on his boat. And he has this most creative, wonderful ideas because he's retired and he's thinking from a retirement standpoint.
Wow.
And so these ways that we can bring that retirement and vacation, mindset into our life can breathe this, fresh air into our life and our business. So I love that, we're on the same page with that and really bringing that into people's lives. So, I'm excited to see that, and our listeners are going to have to grab that as well. I think it's so important to have these tools that are able to support people with that. And I'll also put into the show links. I also have a free gift, the Life Reset Quiz, which will be important for people to grab as well. In just a few moments, you'll be able to see what are the parts in your life that are working and what are the parts that you need to have some support on. So that'll be in the show notes as well, liferesetquiz.com. And any final thoughts, Wendy, for our audience?
Well, I want to say thank you to you already. This has been such a pleasure. It was so great to meet you and to just share. We're such like minds. I mean, we are doing beautiful, wonderful work from our hearts, it feels like. And so I'm so grateful to have connected with you and your listeners. And to the listeners out there, I just want you to have the life that you want, to be the best you. I'm turning 50 in a couple of weeks, and yay! And I feel more of myself than I ever did. More of myself than I ever did. And I wish that for all of you. And there is a way to get there. And you can see it. You can see it and you can feel it when people really are being their best selves, when they are in tune and aligned and fearless also. It's not that we're not afraid of anything, because things come up, but just be fearless and say what you have to say. Question what it is that you want to know about, and show your badass, brag a little bit, find some things that you're proud on, and be conscious of finding pleasure and joy in your life. So I wish that for all of you, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Wendy, so much. First of all, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
And if you don't know about this resource, one of my dear friends, Kenlyn Colleen, wrote a book called The Art of Turning 50.
I have to write that down.
It's a workbook. And it's about, really reflecting on your life and where you're going and what you're doing. So for a woman who really appreciates deep questioning, this will be a wonderful gift to yourself to have.
Absolutely. I'm going to look it up.
So you'll definitely have to check that out. The Art of Turning 50. When you Google it, it'll come up. And that'll be amazing.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really excited about that.
Yes.
Yay.
You're welcome. Perfect. So listeners, I just want to thank you so much. Without you, we're not here. And we just want to appreciate for you taking out that most valuable resource we all have is your time to come here and connect. And we build community. These are the kind of conversations that we want to have. As entrepreneurs, sometimes we can feel isolated, just, ourselves and our computer. And so this is a way we get to connect to the greater community to help, embrace our life and to help other people. So please, no matter what forum that you're watching this on, please subscribe, please share, get the word out on this. And whether it's on Facebook or YouTube or any of the podcast channels, please put into the comments, what's one takeaway you have from here? What are some of the questions that you have? And please, tag both Wendy and myself, because we'd love to connect with you. We'd love to answer any of your questions and really help and further you along on your journey. So I just want to thank you so much for being here. Reach out, be involved, put in the comments, share everything. And just thank you so much for being here. And as always, live your spa life. Bye for now. See ya.